all of us have been saying and hearing the expression ein milim in Hebrew, or no words in English. So it's an interesting thing to try to compose a Devar Torah, which means a word of Torah, when there really aren't any words. There really aren't any words. We have the words of our prayers. We have music, which can speak when words cannot. We have each other's presence. We don't necessarily have a lot of words, so all I can really do, which I hope I always do, is to just channel and speak from my heart, from my very broken heart. The Hasidic Rebbe, the Kotzker Rebbe, I think you've probably all heard me say this by now. He taught that there's nothing so whole or so complete as a broken heart. It doesn't make sense. How can a broken heart be whole? Well, as Leonard Cohen said, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So I stand before you both broken and whole, together with the cracks in our hearts. There's a lot of light getting in, and when we come in to communal space like this, that light is so much brighter. We are being resistors in a very deep way by coming tonight to celebrate Shabbat, to connect with our tradition, to light our candles. Shabbat is meant to be a taste of a perfect world, so that we can taste it and experience it, so that we can work in the world on all the other days to make it come to pass. So together on this Shabbat, our broken hearts have come together. The light is getting in and is flowing forth. It's reaching to our family in Israel. You might think you don't have family in Israel, but if you're a Jew, you do have family in Israel. And I would like to think, if you're not a Jew, but you are among those who have reached out and are with us, including our representative, Tommy Vitolo, is here tonight. Thank you. There are many non-Jews who are with us as well, but we have siblings in Israel. We have 7 million brothers and sisters. And of course, the non-Jewish citizens of Israel are our family too. So together, we are Am Yisrael. Am is a people. There's really no sense of us Jews over here and Israeli Jews over there, or all of Israel, the Jewish state within which live non-Jewish citizens. It's always our enemies, starting with Pharaoh, who see the Jews as one undifferentiated people and refer to us as one. Pharaoh says we're an Am, a people. The difference between when our enemies say we're an Am, a people, and when we say we're an Am, when we say Am Yisrael Chai, is that our Am takes into account the unique preciousness of every human being. We are not an undifferentiated mass, but each of us in our unique neshamas, our neshamot, our souls, come together and make, just as our ancestors built a mishkan in the wilderness, a portable place for the divine presence to dwell among them. When we come together, each of us with our unique gifts and questions, our hurts and our joys, then we're an Am. We've reclaimed that term from Pharaoh and other enemies who have used it. And our enemies today, right now in this moment, see us as one. The calls today that scared us all were for violence against Jews. Not just Israelis, Jews. We are Am Echad. So one kind of strange but beautiful blessing of this past week is that I have been so connected to my friends and colleagues, both in Israel and those who are leading Jewish communities like I am so privileged to do. And my dear friend, a great Rabbi, Joe Kanofsky, he's an Orthodox rabbi in Toronto, and we're very good friends. And he shared with me what he was going to speak about tonight. And I want to share a few points. He said that tonight there's the Shabbat Devar Torah on the book of Genesis, the Parsha of Genesis that we want to hear, and the one that we have for tonight. So, without the events of last Shabbat, I would be talking to you about new beginnings, about how we continue the cycle of readings in this sacred, unending continuum. We start right over and bring light to our sacred texts as the texts illuminate us. And each year we are different, we grow and evolve, and so the meaning changes for us, and what a holy and sacred encounter that is between us and Torah, year after year after year. But there's another part of this Shabbat's Torah portion that we don't like to talk about so much. We wrestle with it, but it's nicer to talk about new beginnings. The other part of the Torah portion is the first murder, Cain and Abel, that story. So my friend Joe, Rabbi Kanofsky, he speaks about how this Parsha of Bereshit talks about creation and everything that fills the land and the seas and the creation of humankind, Adam, and Chava, Eve, and their children. And the very first murder is their kids. They're perpetrated by their child against their other child. Humanity didn't get very far without the murder, huh? Cain sees that his brother Abel's offering seems more pleasing than his, and he murders him. And that's what we have as the beginning of human history. Spilling the blood of your brother, your physical brother. So that's what we read this week. And last week, as Rabbi Kanofsky points out, we woke up to learn that the blood of our brothers was being spilled. A pogrom in our homeland. A horror that we cannot describe in words. What is there to talk about, he asks. What can we say? And yet remaining silent may be worse. And Joe, like myself, have experienced the silence of those we thought were our friends. And it's deafening. Joe points out that we have a tendency to compare with numbers. We have like a bit of an accountant inside of us, he says, and we want to see the balance sheet. Was this pogrom as bad as 9/11? Oh, proportionally, it was so much worse. I believe we're up to now the equivalent number of Americans killed in an attack on a single day would be something around 35,000. He asks, how many Jews were murdered in Kristallnacht, the pogrom throughout Germany in 1938? 91. What about the Kishinev pogrom? 49. He says you have to go back a ways in history to find a pogrom where our enemies murdered and butchered as many of us as last Shabbat. He says he stopped himself from looking and he doesn't want to know. The loss of life, the gleeful murder of our people, couldn't be, my friend Joe says, more in stark contrast to the joy that we take in life. He says it used to be people who would commit evil acts would try to hide their crimes, and now they post them on the internet so everyone can see. That's how far humankind has advanced. So next week, when we get to the next Torah portion of Noah, we're going to learn from God's words to Noah, Umiyad ha'adam miyad ish achiv edrosh et nefesh ha'adam. The blood of your souls I will demand, says God to man. Every person for that of his brother, I will demand the soul. Whoever sheds the blood of another, by another shall his blood be shed, for people are all made in the image of God. But it's not till later, when we'll get to it in February, when we get the 10 Commandments in the book of Exodus and Parshat Yitro, that we're going to hear that commandment, because we clearly were not catching on. Lo tirtzach. Do not murder. Joe says that, points out that if you go to Auschwitz, and maybe some of you have visited there, you would actually see words from this week's Torah portion inscribed on the wall in one of the barracks, which is now a place for reflection and prayer. And those words say, Kol demei achicha tzeakim elai min ha'adama. Tzeakim alai min ha'adama. The bloods, in plural, the bloods of your brother cry out to me from the earth, God says to Cain. Why is it in the plural? Here's why. You, I think many of you, if not most, have heard this profound Jewish teaching that whoever destroys a single human life, it is as if they have destroyed an entire universe. And whoever saves one single human life, it is as if they have saved an entire universe. Raise your hands if you've heard that before. Yeah, a lot of you. So this parsha says damim, bloods, God, when God is speaking to Cain, instead of blood in the singular, because Cain also killed the descendants that Abel, Hevel, would never have. And Joe says that last week one of his students said, any fool can count the seeds in an apple, but only God knows how many apples are in a seed. So the preciousness of human life cannot be overstated, and I talked about it over the High Holy Days on Yom Kippur about the central injunction, Bacharta b'chayim, in the book of Deuteronomy that our community reads on Yom Kippur, choose life. You have life and you have death. You must choose life. You must choose life. And really, though we've screwed up quite a bit because we're human beings, our people has done an incredible job of choosing life. Again, it can't be stated enough times. In the darkest, most atrocious of circumstances, we have lit Shabbat candles. People smuggled things like Havdalah sets, ritual objects to help them mark time, to usher out Shabbat, spice boxes. The stories are countless. If you have never been to the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust in New York City, in Battery Park, where I worked from the years 2000 to 2002, I want you to go, because this is where they preserve these incredible stories of choosing life, of what we call spiritual resistance. And now this choosing life business is a lot to ask. How are we supposed to put one foot in front of the other? How are we supposed to keep going, celebrating? We have no choice, because there are many who have shown, either with their actions or with their silence, that they are on the side of death, and we can't be with them. We are the people who choose life, who rejoice in life, who understand that we have great capacity for evil and great capacity for good, and to use everything in our power in the short time that we are here walking this earth to be on the side of life. This is not going to be easy. These aren't just words anymore. I started out by saying there are no words, and then I said a lot of words. Clearly, I had to take a bunch of them from my friend because it's hard to find them. But they're not just words anymore. When I spoke about choosing life on Yom Kippur, we lived in a different world. So when we say Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people live. The Jewish people lives. When we say that, it doesn't just mean something abstract. We endure, we live. It means that today and every day going forward, in every moment going forward, we have choice. We have to choose life, and that is going to mean hard work, speaking out, crying out, and living. And I keep thinking of this Yiddish word, mechaya. It's a mechaya. How many of you know that word? Okay, good. So I can teach it to you. Some of you know, but not all of you. A mechaya means, sounds like chai, right? Chai, l'chaim, life. Am Yisrael chai, right? A mechaya is a Yiddish word meaning that which sustains life and brings joy. And what I want to say to us today, and of course I'm giving the words that I need to hear, is that we need to seek out mechayas. We need to create them. We need to recognize them. We need to celebrate them. Just one more, just one spark of joy is so life-giving, so life-affirming. It can be so small and so powerful in a world that has gone dark in this way. Yes, we're going to sing that in a minute. You're way ahead of me, Karen. So when we say Am Yisrael Chai, keep on living. Live for the people that cannot. Live for the people whose lives were stolen, whose lives were shattered, and who are now in captivity. Last week, there was a call for Jews who could to dance with the Torah. Our friends in Israel were saying, dance with the Torah on Simchat Torah, because some communities were celebrating that day on Shabbat day, last Saturday. And they said, dance with the Torah because we can't. So let's commit ourselves. Each of us, we are so much greater together. Starting tonight with this room fuller than I've seen it in a long time on a Friday night. Come back, connect, give each other the mechaya, the spark of joy that is life-giving. Take on a new practice or learn something new about Judaism. Connect in a new way. Find the mechayas, create the mechayas. If we can create more life and life-giving moments, that can be a prayer that is one of action, that God willing, will ultimately overcome the devastation of both Israelis, our Jewish people, and all of the innocent people in harm's way in this horror. And it should go without saying, but I've learned in the last week that it doesn't. We're all together, along with all the innocent Palestinians, any human being who just wants to live in safety and peace and freedom on this earth. We all have a common enemy in Hamas and all that they represent. It is a cult of death. They are not freedom fighters. Tell your friends who might be confused. Hamas does not represent their people who want peace. They want death. They want maximum casualties of children and babies so that the world will say, you're just fighting against an evil oppressor. Of course we care about all who live there. I can't believe it needs to be said, but again, it needs to be said. And one mechaya you can do, a way that you can keep living and moving forward and breathing life into this world that is filled with too much death, is to tell people, of course you and your Jewish people want peace and safety for precious, precious babies and children, and women and men who do not support death and gleeful death and the murder of babies and children and women and mass rape, the murder of Holocaust survivors. You don't stand with them. We don't stand with them. And we need to join together with peace-loving Palestinian people and all in this world who stand for our Western liberal democratic values, because they want to come for all of us. It doesn't end with Israel and the Jews. So if you can educate somebody, and I don't know, I don't have a lot of hope. These narratives are so complex, they were so complex, they're so woven in so many ways. There's the blend of latent anti-Semitism, the world's oldest hatred that is coming into play here. I don't know how much we can make a difference. But of course we want peace for everyone. We need to be together in this fight. This is not going to be quick or easy. So let's find a lot of machayas along the way. Let's create them. Let's seek them out. Let's recognize them. May all beings on this earth know safety and freedom, and may our people emerge from this greatest catastrophe since the Shoah, the Holocaust. May we emerge more full of life than we ever have been. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai.